Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I've just had a Zoom call with Lesley Roberts, dear friend of the channel, and a woman who many of you regular viewers will know has worked tirelessly for the betterment of Scotland as a whole, and for all those who are dealing with the COVID inquiries and the police action that's going on. So we've got her on. She's going to give us an update on how it's going with sort of various public bodies and what's going on with her herself, and of course she's going to have a look at the current state with the police investigation. So it's just a general roundup and push of where she is. And there's a couple of weird things that seem to be going on. But I'll just leave that there, and I won't come back at the end. I'm just going to link in now to the Zoom call, and then when that ends, that will be the end of the video because it's long enough as it is. So here goes. Right. So obviously I've got Lesley here with me. Say hello, Lesley.
Hello, everybody.
Right, you've joined us today because it was actually last week. We meant to do this a bit quicker, but with one thing and another and all sorts of busy lives and weekends and things, we've been slightly delayed. But you had another visit from the police last week with regards to the inquiry where they took all your evidence.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And they sort of, I think you gave them produced more evidence or whatever, and then there was more statements taken. Is that right?
What actually happened was I listened to the government, if you want to call them that, give evidence at the UK COVID inquiry. And I was aghast at some of the revelations within that. For instance, we want a rammy with the UK government.
Mm-hmm.
We are winging it. You know, there was certain revelations like where is all the messages. They then spoke about gold command, quite simply nonsense. Been absolutely no meeting minutes taken for meetings, no messages, no WhatsApp messages regarding COVID.
Yeah,
I believe,
we've covered that deeply. It was
yeah,
terrible.
I believe that they did that intentionally because obviously she had spoke to Kieran Jenkins. She had said that the Inquiries Act 2005 pointed out that you couldn't withhold evidence, and yet they all of a sudden did. So, in my opinion, the trajectory that they took through those messages would have led to there been far more evidence about what went on. So, in my opinion, to hide that, they got rid of the WhatsApp messages and did not take meetings
Yeah.
to basically do what they done. And that, in my opinion, should have been sought, it should have been viewed as criminality. So I've asked for that to be
Yeah.
investigated as
Again,
well.
we push that. We're saying that's actually destruction of evidence, which is in and of itself a crime.
Yes.
And
In
then
my opinion, yes, it
and then there
is.
was another one who actually asked his staff to delete their messages, which makes it conspiracy. And again,
Yes.
that's a crime. There's so much around here, and yet nobody's picking this ball up and running with it, other
No.
than you.
And I just felt, I mean, they're saying that, Jason Leach, I think his words were his bedtime ritual to take his messages off. And somebody else was saying, remember and take these off, they're FOI recordable. So they knew exactly
That was the conspiracy one. That one because he was telling
what
other
they were
people.
doing. Take these messages off. Let's hide it from the public. So whilst they were hiding messages, my mother was lying in hospital with a broken hip, with 2 head injuries, with absolutely appalling NHS care, with
Yeah,
no accountability whatsoever.
I know. I mean, this obviously will touch upon what happened in the treatment and whatever of your mother, which because of speaking as we have in the past, I know was awful. I mean, is that something you want to talk about now, or is that something perhaps we could throw together on a separate video?
I would say that is probably for a longer video.
Yeah,
All
well,
I
we'll
will
schedule one
say,
of them. We can do one of them next week.
yeah,
Call you in on that.
all I
Yeah.
will say, just touching on that, is that my mother's death is now being investigated. Although my mother did not die of COVID, she died due to, in my opinion, due to the things that were going on at the time, like mass misuse of DNA
Yeah.
CPR,
Yeah.
lack of risk assessment, where's your RIDOR, any kind of reporting mechanisms that were in place within the public sector seem to disappear. You know, all of the things that we all worked with for years, they all just disappeared on this government guidance, and yet government guidance should have been superseded by all the different legislations as well as common law, and that was just forgotten. So I believe that my mother died due to the decisions that were being made.
Yeah.
So we could get
not died of COVID, but died due to what COVID was causing within the administration and within the hospitals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I met Stuart Gale.
Yeah.
I just touching on it. I met Stuart Gale, the QC for the inquiry, on the 3rd of November with a solicitor on his side. I had a solicitor on my side, and it was agreed that I would give evidence regarding my mother on the 22nd of November. Out of the blue, I was cancelled completely. And I was told that I would be, I was getting put off for, I think it was time constraints. How was I so different to everyone else? And how did I fall into the bracket of time constraints when it had already been agreed that they spoke to me on the 3rd? Okay, I wrote to him after it telling him he was incompetent. So perhaps that's why he didn't put me in the stand. I called him out.
You'd have been, what's the word when they do it in court? Hostile witness, perhaps. They knew that and they didn't want to go and open that particular can of worms.
Well, I wasn't going to be hostile. I was going to be truthful, and he is incompetent.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you were going to be hostile. I'm just saying that's how it may have been perceived.
Perhaps. I don't think anybody wants to see me in the stand, because I think that it would be extremely detrimental, given the evidence that the police have now called vast evidence, to put me on the stand. I will be showcasing that vast evidence.
Yeah, and then once it's there, it is out. It is public record.
Yes. Now, the issues with that, where obviously I had applied for CP status, I was denied core participant status. I was then approached last year about joining the Scottish Coalition work group. This one is quite incredulous. I was then given legal assistance because I was part of that group and they had CP status. So the lawyer for that group was there with me dealing with my mother, because some of the issues that happened to my mother were happening to everybody. And me as the board's equalities rep, you know, I was highlighting mass use of DNA, CPR, you know, the NG NICE protocols, which weren't very nice, and all the medication it was using. And it wasn't just about the medication. It was about the fact that, you know, what was going on with these patients. You know, they had breathing difficulties. Why then would you start them on medication that affected their breathing? Why were they not being given food? You know, all these different issues. So that's part of the criminal case that I'm hoping the police will take forward. But I had been part of this group, and I had been asked by this group to give my evidence to the lawyers. So I sat and I thought about it, and I spoke to the police, and they said, be extremely cautious about what information you're giving out. So I spoke to the lawyer in detail, and I said, look, I'm going to give you it, and basically we can then discuss what we're going to use, what we're going to not, what is going to be too detrimental to the criminal case. So that was fine.
Yeah, so you don't want to you don't want to spoil one for the other. So you've got to keep the important one, which is the criminal case, isn't it? That's the primary one. Yeah. That's the one you've got to protect.
But that turned out quite strange as well. It was quite sinister, actually. The lawyer who was dealing with me left a fortnight ago. I didn't know she had left, and I had a lot of contact with this woman. I really liked her. And she was saying things like, I think it's up to us as the solicitors to raise issue with DNA CPR and a number of the oversight bodies who were not doing the job properly and overseeing the public sector. So I agreed with her assessment of all of this. She then said that rather than me going to the media, they might do it for me and say that this was the evidence that we were putting forward to the inquiry. So she left. My emails were jumping back. I then was forced to phone the lawyer, who I will remain nameless, and was told that she had left. There was someone replacing her. But no one knew where my evidence was. Apparently it falls thrown the net at this point. So I was somewhat concerned. I then phoned and spoke to someone very senior who advised me that he would come back to me, which he did. But his view was I wouldn't have supported my solicitor to take a number of things forward, and yet she did. So after speaking to him and basically saying, look, at present, I don't know where you are with this, but I am now duly concerned about the fact that you're sitting with all the criminal evidence and no one seems to at present know where it is. So I said, at present, I don't want you putting any of that into the inquiry. I want it withheld. So out of the blue, I then got an email from the group who had approached me last summer about being a core participant partner within the group to say that they had dropped me. And they had dropped me because I had apparently breached their protocols and the legal privileges last summer. Now, I wasn't a member till late on the summer, so how did I breach their protocols when I wasn't a member at that point?
When you weren't a member, no. You're breaking the rules of a club you're not a member of.
I haven't signed anything. And I made it, I was absolutely, you know what I'm like? I said to them from day one, if you want me to come on board, I come on board. I will not be gagged. I will not adhere to a restriction order. And I said the same to Stuart Gale. I will not adhere to a restriction order. It is a public inquiry paid with public funds for the, for the public to find out what happens. So why are they putting restriction orders on people? What's that all about?
Because they want you to tell the truth, but they want you to tell their truth.
Exactly. And I'm not playing ball. No. I never play ball. So they have basically removed me from the group for reasons unknown. So I emailed them back and said, look, you've dropped me. Why have you dropped me? Didn't respond. So this morning I went back to the lawyer and I wrote him a very lengthy email, which is on my Facebook page, outlining my concerns and telling him if he does not answer me, I'm going to the Scottish Legal Complaints Commission because I don't believe that the lawyers are working in line with their own law.
It's not occurred to me until we're having this conversation now, because I did know about the lawyer that left. Did she leave of her own volition, or was she eased out, do you think?
Who knows? I don't know.
No.
I have spoken to her because I went on to the...
you've spoken to her since?
I have spoken to her. But quite incredulously as well, is that another lawyer phoned me up from the same firm to speak out about a compensation claim for my mother's death. Now, what is that all about? I have never once said I want a compensation claim for my mother. We are now almost at the 3-year point of all our falls and all that anyway. So the same firm said, do you want to speak about this? And I said, hold on. I do not need any representation from you. I presented all the documents to you. I did not want anything back or in return for that. I simply wanted that group and other groups that you were acting for to get accountability. And she then went on and said to me, yeah, but you're a union member. Yeah, I'm still a union member. She said, well, you could basically go to the lawyer, go to the union to get the union to put up the fees to get us to act for you. I said, wait a minute. I've not discussed this once with you. So I don't know where all this is going. I don't think anybody
Guys to
is
lawyers all the
confident.
time, isn't it?
Well, I sent him a letter, and if you go onto my Facebook page, I clearly outline my position, and my position isn't moving. I don't believe that they're competent. So therefore, I want all stuff removed off of their database, whatever they're holding that I have sent them, and that way it protects the criminal case completely and utterly.
Yeah. Oh, well,
it just seems as if
it just seems as though people are out to get you now. I mean, it's just everything seems, even something that is innocent always seems now to have the appearance of, is that innocent? Is that deliberate? Have they done that? It's almost paranoia, but it's not paranoia when they are coming out after you,
To be honest, it just kind of flies over my head now. After my car was blown up and my wheel nuts were removed and I had to move house, and I'm now at the stage of, what they're going to say this time. Nothing really seems to bother me. What does bother me is the lack of accountability, the lack of anybody actually doing anything about anything. It just seems, obviously, you spoke to Stephen as well. You played that video.
Yeah, did that video.
It's an absolute show. It really is. And public sector ineptness, corruptness, incompetence. It's all these wee cabals of people who, they all get together. Look at us. We can all group together, and it's just nonsense.
Cover everything up.
Yes.
Incompetence you can deal with because people make mistakes, but it's the corruption and the cover up afterwards that comes around. That's what bites, isn't it?
When it's someone's life and when they are looking at people's lives, it really, really, really annoys me, because I didn't get into nursing to watch my patients die. I didn't become a union rep to watch death traps being set for my members, with unsafe masks and everything else. And the more you try and get out, the more they try and silence you. Yeah. But the more they try and silence me, the louder I will get.
The louder you get, yeah. Beat me to it, yeah.
I won't put up with being silenced. I have worked every single day for 3 years to put all this together, all the different complaints to all the different people, and I have been through the GMC, Port Doctors, the NMC regarding nurses, the Scottish Social Services Commission, the Mental Welfare Commission. Every one of these public sector oversight bodies. You then have the problem that the SPSO and stuff just let it carry on. So, for instance, they turned around and said, it was a blanket approach to DNA CPR. That should never have been accepted.
No, it should be case on merit, isn't it? Every case on merit.
Exactly. And it isn't. Just because you reach a certain age does not necessarily mean that you are suddenly expendable. No. And you've got a lot of people who are genuinely at an age where they think, I don't want to go through resuscitation and everything else. And I can see that. But to just judge somebody on, blanket approach, that's what he said.
Because they don't know that person. That person prior to coming in could be active, healthy, filled with life, filled with family commitments, all sorts of things at your stage. He looks a bit doddery, put that on, doesn't matter. People become commodities. That's the trouble.
That's the thing. When you start losing your emotional intelligence and your moral compass and start basically thinking that people are expendable, you would be safer in a vet's than you would be in a hospital. And I think it's coming to the point where people are actually getting, do I go to hospital? I would give it second thoughts now. Would I go to hospital? I would probably visit my vet rather than go to a hospital, because you would probably get better care. And that's when, it's becoming a situation which you're never going to turn back from this. If nobody questions it, the public sector and the oversight bodies are going to see it as carte blanche to basically do this ever again if there's ever another.
If they can get away with it once, they'll keep getting away with it. It's got to be, as a warning to the others. Who was that? Oh God, I can see the face. But it was there was a French writer, and he said that occasionally the English hang an admiral as a warning to the others, and it's never a truer word. When the other admirals see what happens if they screw up, they don't screw up, and so that's what they do.
But I think you've also got to be aware, and I said to the police, and I reiterated it again, I don't believe that Dorothy Bain can be involved in this because she is sitting as a Scottish minister with a dual role.
Have you seen the Roger Livermore videos?
Yeah, I work quite closely with Roger.
Oh, you work with Roger, of course you do, yeah. But I didn't have to see the video, but we went on there. That was very, very enlightening. A lot of people watched that. A lot of people made many, many comments on that, and it was all very much pro Roger. Everyone was like, "Oh my God!" It's not things. A lot of people didn't even realise that this was the case, and it's really has opened a floodgate of people being aware of what exactly is going on. Yeah, got to say, Roger's a lovely guy, though.
Oh, it's funny. Some of his emails are, he's very, very clever, and he has been a Crown prosecutor. He has done this all his life, so he's got a good grip on the law. But he calls Scotland the country without law.
Yeah. Now, talking of law, the criminal case that you're bringing, how is the inquiry going now?
Well, I think it's tomorrow, the 1st of March. No, it's not. Tomorrow's leap year.
Tomorrow is it's 29th because it's a leap year. So Friday's the 1st of March.
Yeah, it was a year ago on Friday that Roger and Rab Wilson, who was the whistleblower for Ayrshire and Arn, went to Cowcaddens Police Office and made our original complaint. So it's now been a year down the line, and that's them just finished taking the statements from me. But there's now 60 productions. 60 productions. So it's a lot of productions. It was a lot of work.
Yes.
So 60 productions and 2 statements. So yeah.
I know that they are actually questioning all the workers, the managers, the inpatients who were there at the time of all the care homes. And I know they've started that. There's a lot of them, so it's not going to be quick. But they want to do every single care home, don't they?
I think it's now, what they said to me last week was that it's now at a national level. So that's a good thing. So apparently it's going up north to be investigated.
Right. So getting it away from Edinburgh.
Yeah. So who knows? They probably took my documents up and they're stuck somewhere because the road's not dulled.
Probably buried in a pothole. They're stuck in a pothole. We had a pothole in the village here the other day. You could have buried a dog in it.
I know. I just think the whole country is it's crumbling. Potholes, ferries. I just have never seen absolute incompetence and people who are just totally inept and not up to the role.
No, none of them. And I did the thing yesterday. I said, if they got the odd thing right, that would be good. But it's every single thing is wrong. And to get every single thing wrong is so improbable that it's got to be deliberate. They've got to look at every decision and say, what's the right thing to do, and do the other thing. Every time. I don't think they've got the intelligence to do it. I think that at that point, if you stood a monkey in a yellow rosette, I think at that point they would have been voted in. But I think that why not? They've voted enough donkeys. Might as well have a monkey.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think now, I think the country is now looking to put the donkeys in the sanctuary and retire them. And I think more and more and more that I think that people are seeing that they're authoritarian, they're totalitarian. They don't actually want anybody speaking out. And, it's just ridiculous.
That was Fergus today. He had a go at them, didn't he? Because of he's got his little 7-day ban, and he's saying that there are authoritarian, single-minded party that you cannot speak out, you cannot say against what the leader says. There's no discussion. It's rule by diktat, and that's it. And I mean, I love Fergus for that. I don't agree with his politics generally, but I do admire the man. I like the man, you know. And
Yes.
he's one of the very few that will actually stand up and face them off. So good for him.
Well, I've got an MSP down here that, oh my goodness, I've never seen someone who basically is so happy to please. And, you know, he would, I keep saying to him, that, you know, you will side with party politics rather than your constituents. And it should be about, the key is in the word representative. And I used to always say that when I was a union representative.
Oh, they represent. They do represent, but they do the representation the wrong way. They represent the party to the people, and not the people to the party, and that's the difference.
Exactly.
Anyway, I'm getting a timer warning on this, so we're going to have to start bringing it round.
No bother.
But it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure talking to you. We will set up that other one for next week, and we will talk about your mother in full and in the round and see what's going on there. But thanks very much for the update, and have an absolutely wonderful evening. And I will get this together, edit it together, and I will get this out as quickly as I can.
Thank you. And lovely to see you.
Okay.